Voilà, nous allons ainsi continuer avec Monsieur le professeur Bernard Sabella de l'Université de sociologie de Bethléem, Palestine, et aussi à l'Université de Virginie aux États-Unis. Vous avez donc, Monsieur le professeur, la parole pendant 8 minutes. Merci beaucoup.
First of all, I owe my presence here really to the fact that Palestine was accepted as the second member in the program for democracy of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. And so I thank the organizers for including Palestine. And by including Palestine, I'm here. So now, because there is the time limitation, I will try, in a sense, to highlight the points. If people ask me about where Palestinian women are today, I would say we have come, all of us, women and men, a long way. Yes, people remind me that there is Israeli occupation, yes. But when we look at the dynamics of Palestinian society, today the statistics I looked at on education, for example, shows, just an example, 55% of university students are women in Palestine. At Bethlehem University, where I taught for a long time, there are 70% women. And these women usually come, you are talking there about a student population overall of about maybe 4,000, and then about 3,000 are women. Likewise at Birzeit University. So women in Palestine have come a long way. And so did we from the time of the British mandate. Also, in terms of professions, since 2000, Palestinian women we have had more dentists, which reminds me I have a tooth infection and I'm taking antibiotics. So I always think of a woman dentist, you know, as good as a man dentist. And doctors, we have now gone from 10% to around 17%. Pharmacists, the women are taking over, and we have 52% of women pharmacists today in Palestine. So most likely when you go into a pharmacy in Palestine, you would see a woman. Now, nurses, 2/3 of all our nurses in Palestine are women. And people say, but this is accustomed, you know, this is customary. In any society, it's women who are nurses. But in fact, there were social stigma to women at a certain point serving as nurses, because then they would be exposed to the body of others. But today, that has changed in Palestinian society. And the weakest part with respect to women achievements is really in the legal professions and in the prosecutors' jobs and in the judges, with very low percentages. For example, the prosecutors, we have only 5%. There was 0 in 2000, and today we have 5%. Judges, we had 4.5% in 2000, today we have 12%. And another encouraging news is that when you view the participation of Palestinian women in the household, they are really into it. In other words, we have joint decision-making at home, and it is not that the husband or the male is the dictator, but more we tend to be nuclear families, and therefore the decision is shared. And sometimes our daughters tell us what to do. But on this, I want to tell you, I was teaching a class at Bethlehem University one year, And there were 35 beautiful young women in the class. And I asked them, and most of them came from the southern areas of the West Bank, which are known to be highly conservative, highly religious. And I asked them, who told you, who was the one to influence you coming to the university? And I was surprised, because almost all of them said, my father. So the impression that men are out there to stop women is not, in my opinion, is not born by everything. Yes, there are countries and societies and cultures, including my own culture, which is male-dominated, but that doesn't mean that with the new realities, men are not also agents for change. And yet, with all the progress done, even on matters of inheritance, for example, 25% of Palestinian women have inheritance, which is usually a big question mark, you know, in Islamic societies, whether the woman would get inheritance or not. And yet, with all this, the participation of Palestinian women in the workforce is only 15%. And when you look where Palestinian women are the best, where they are working, you find almost 21% working in agriculture. And they are the least paid among workers. In addition, you find that most women are in service occupations. And so they don't have their own shops, or they don't have their own businesses, but they are in service occupations. On violence, more women are exposed to violence in Palestinian society than men. Almost 62% of women to 26% of men. And when it comes to physical violence, 23% of women experience physical violence to only 4.3% of men. So basically there is a disparity here on violence exercised on women. And when we talk about the current political situation, I would say most women would say, or almost 77%, that they have had violence against them or their property or their agricultural produce by Israeli army of occupation and by settler groups. And this is a reality that Palestinian women live in. And another big obstacle, is that only 5% of Palestinian women own property, and only about 8% have households. They own the households. Remember, around 10% of all Palestinian families are run by women. 10% of all Palestinian families. Now, so what do we expect for the future? I'm almost out of time, not out of town, but in education, the good thing about the role of having so many Palestinian women, almost more than men, in education, is that mothers become really key figures in changing attitudes. And attitudes towards not only gender equality, but attitudes towards what kind of society we want to make and what kind of choices. And even when it comes to personal choices, I'm happy to report that most Palestinian women decide for themselves who are they going to marry. About maybe 55%. So we are getting away from this patriarchal kind of system. On economy, yes, we do need to go forward, but remember that Israeli occupation controls our economy. We are almost 90% dependent on Israeli economy. And so there we need to do a major transformation. We need to get our independence in order to have our economy. And it's very difficult to work on your economy while you are under the authority and control of another power. And finally, final point, when we talk about society and culture, I would repeat again that we are on our way, and we have come a long way. And if there is a lesson from the Arab Spring, in my opinion, is that irrespective of what kind of a dictatorship or political regime or party will come to power in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Libya, in Palestine, in Syria, that regime, if it turns out to be dictatorial and ideologically closed and narrow, will not be able to survive the first 5 years. And I think men and women of Arab society will rise up again to say, kifaya, stop, enough, and we can't take it. Because we have had now the model, internal model, of people really rising up and saying we don't accept dictatorship. And I think this is the most important lesson, in my opinion, of the Arab Spring. And I really do hope, my last word, that more and more, especially Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, and other countries will join the democracy program membership in the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Thank you.